Hi everyone. In this feature update, we shall discuss on the changes which we have done to allow release of purchase debit note, credit note transactions even without specifying vendor's credit note and debit note details. Before I show you the flow, let us first understand the background for this change. The very first question that comes up is that why was the release of purchase debit note or credit note restricted if vendor's document details were not provided? To understand the same, let's take an example. A vendor needs to issue a credit note to you, that is, you are the buyer. When a credit note is issued, the actions to be taken by the vendor will be he issues a credit note against the original invoice. He then uploads the credit note in GST returns. Now, coming to the actions to be taken as a buyer, that is, actions to be taken by you will be you create a debit note against the credit note issued to you. You specify the credit note details in your debit note as reference document number and date. You upload the debit note in GST portal for GST return. Now, let's look into the challenges. Operationally, the buyer is issuing the debit note first and then the supplier is issuing the credit note. This is a common working in case of purchase return and date difference scenarios. Debit notes in these cases were not getting uploaded to EaseMy GST as these transactions were not released. Now, why was these transactions not released? It was due to the fact that the reconciliation was taking time from the supplier end. But now the challenge is the GSTR 3B, which is the summary of all sale and purchase, is to be filed first and then GSTR 1 or 2 has to be done at a later stage. Due to this reconciliation delay, GSTR 3B was also not getting filed. So we had request from most of our customers to allow release of purchase debit notes and credit notes without specifying the vendor's document details which they wanted to fill in at a later stage. Now let's have a look into the system how these changes has been incorporated. I am in the procurement module. This is applicable for all types of purchase debit notes and credit notes either issued from purchase return or purchase debit note or purchase credit note or service debit note. I am showing you an example of purchase return debit note. Now I am selecting a supplier. I am not filling up the document number and date fields. Now I am moving to select a goods return. I'm going to add and I'm selecting a goods return transaction which I have already prepared for this demo. Once I have selected the goods return and then I am calculating the charges. Now for this particular profile from which I have entered, I have the auto release provision. So on clicking on save, I am getting a message that vendor's credit note or debit note details are required to be inputted in document number and date fields for GST return matchmaking. Please select the desired behavior from the options below. Now if you select only save, the system will only save the transaction. It won't release the transaction. If you select save and release, the system will save the transaction as well as release it. When you release it and this gets uploaded to the GST portal, the matchmaking won't be automatic because the document number and date, that is the vendor's credit note number and date, won't be there, so the matchmaking won't take place. So you need to use this option with caution. I am selecting only save. The transaction is now saved. Now let's go to the release document in order to show you that you can release the transactions even without specifying the document details from the release form. I'll select the entry type and the vendor to shorten the list. Now see, this entry number does not have any document number and date. I'm selecting this and I can release. Please have a note that we have specified a warning message here that your vendor's credit note and debit note details are mandatory as per GST rules for reconciliation activity. If you don't provide these details, you might face issues while filing returns. You can release the same. Now once you have released this, the challenge will be that I have released this, but the vendor's credit note details are sent to me by the vendor at a later stage. So we have introduced the purchase return module in the vendor debit note and credit note reconciliation module itself. So you can select the vendor, you can select the purchase return, you can check the release status to posted and then search. See, the entry number is now showing here. I can specify here the credit note number sent by the supplier, and I can save the same. Now going back to the purchase return module, if I retrieve that transaction, I can see the document number has been updated. We hope this feature will benefit you in your daily operations. This feature update was brought to you by the business analyst team. In case you have any further query, please feel free to contact Ginesys Care. Thank you.